Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, steering is here and sold out already. Do we love it? PacerBots are here. Can we keep up? There are new paid ambassador problem-solving roles available on Zwift. Would Shane and Nathan get the job? You can find out later in the ep, and we have a ton of other Zwifty chats and a feature on the brand new revamped Academies. It's back to school, summer is over, the salad days are done. But hang on, the Tour de France is in full flight, the Giro finishes the day the clocks change, and the Vuelta will still be running in November. Yep, it's 2020. Nothing is normal, except maybe the world of indoor cycling. So the Zwiftcast is back from its summer holidays, and I'm fully expecting my great friends Shane Miller and Nathan Guerra to be rocks of stability in the boiling seas of change. Shane Miller, g'day, mate. Are you stable? Are you a bastion of normality? Can you anchor us amongst the turbulence?
Oh, look, this is your captain speaking. Can all passengers please return to their seats and fasten their seatbelts? 2020 has been a wild ride and it isn't over yet.
Yeah.
I'm well.
True. Good to see you guys. Well, as long as you and yours are well, that is the main thing. Nathan Guerra, yo, dude. Enjoying the tour, mate? I'd be fitting in this maddest of mad years for a Frenchman to be on the top step of the podium in Paris. That's a long time since that happened, if we even get to Paris. I must say, fella, actually, when I see Julien Alaphilippe on the bike, he sort of reminds me a bit of you. Sort of unconventional riding style.
That's funny you'd say that because I look at him and I think he's the only one riding the bike normally. I actually look at him and go, oh, he knows how to ride a bike. So I definitely relate to his style. He's punchy. I like it that he's in yellow. He's been hanging on at the front and this year round, it's very early, but watching, that first stage of the real mountaintop finish, how he hung right in there in that top five wasn't, before it was like struggling, like a little further back over and over, coming back over and over, fighting back. But, it is early still. No idea how long this fitness is going to stick around. But, he hung on for so long, in the past. I'm hoping to see something similar coming up here in the future. But Roglic, I mean, that was just, he's just, they seem on another level. Just another level altogether.
Very, very strong field. Very, very strong field. Pretty impossible to pick a winner at the moment, I think. You must have been pleased to see Caleb Ewan pick a stage up, Shane.
Yeah, for sure. The Aussie came out of nowhere. Was he 17th place back at 300 to go? I think it was. And he threaded the needle like nothing else. And you didn't even know it was him until he popped out at the very last minute. Was it around Bennett? And he had that turn of speed that we saw in Cav many years ago, where Cav was just next level against anyone else. Now, Caleb is not a big dude and he's picked the gap. And he was lucky too that it opened up there on the right-hand side. But again, it's what you do as a sprinter and he got it done. So, proud Aussie moment there for sure.
Yeah. Like all the best sprinters, invisible until about 20 metres from the line. Okay, on to Zwift business, and it's been busy. So for those whose eye has been off the ball a bit or whose bums have been on the saddle outside, here's a quick recap list. Are you ready? Deep breath. It's a long one. Steering is live. Zwift Power is now in-house. The Academy schemes are revamped. There's a new ambassador scheme. There was that survey. We have PacerBots. The fence is back. The Worlds on Zwift is on. Clubs might be expanding soon. France is on the calendar. Whew. Well, we'll try and get through all of those topics in greater or lesser detail on this episode. And let's kick off with arguably the most significant item on that list, which is steering. Here's some reaction to the launch of it from people on the internet who know what they're talking about.
Ultimately, this is way better than I expected. I kind of expected this to suck.
Slinging back onto the wheel at speed. Mark that in the video somewhere as I'm impressed.
But I sort of expected this to be like mostly horrible. and I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's like fine for regular riding, but in racing, this is absolutely a massive game changer. Like if you're a big Zwift racer, I would expect that you should be ordering these right now.
Inside line, that is quicker, a lot quicker.
This won't be for everyone. There'll be lots of people that just want to put, their power into the pedals and go off and ride, and that's totally cool, and Zwift says that's totally cool, and you can keep on doing that, and all is grand there. But for people that want a little bit more realism in their world, this could be it.
This is a game changer for interactivity. For my ride solo, not so much. For what I'm doing right here, absolutely.
Beware of imitations, listeners. Long-time listeners will know I dislike the phrase game changer. It's applied too liberally to too many things. But in this case, I think it might just be justified. Shane, is it? You use the word.
Yeah, look, steering changes the game. So, yes, it's a game changer. It changes the in-game experience from the very first pedal stroke to the very last pedal stroke where you are done with the ride. So, yeah, it's a game changer for sure. Look, there are a few things to know, though, about how the steering works. It's lane selection, and that selection is sticky, meaning that if you choose the inside line, that's what you stay with on the line. So, not quite free world steering, but enough to have fun. And when you're riding with a bunch who don't have steering, they definitely notice it. One of the also little obscurities about it is when you enter a bunch, you can't move sideways if you enter in the middle of the bunch because there's that side-to-side collision detection. So you can only move out the front or out the back or pick a gap somewhere if there is one once it's strung out. I enjoy it, as you saw there, from the little clip from my ride. And another thing that I've been doing lately is up Von 2, everybody is on the right-hand side of the road and in this big, long conga line. If you've got the studded so smart, you can jump out into the center of the lane and just you've got a clear run or a clear line to ride up away from everyone else. So even the solo rides, not just the racing side, it's a bit of fun. So I've been enjoying it.
I mean, it is veering rather than steering, which, John made very clear that was going to be the first iteration of it. He talked about this ages and ages and ages ago on the Zwiftcast, actually. And I think, Shane, veering rather than steering is kind of the right call, really, because I remember in the old days of the Tax iMagic, and if you enabled steering on that like slightly weird steering block thing that they had, you spent your entire time just trying to keep the bike in a relatively straight line and not go off the road. And actually, in the end, that just got super frustrating.
Yeah, look, a lot of, I guess, brain time is spent trying to get your guy to move forward, get your guy or girl avatar moving forward in the right lane, the right line. So if it was a continual, steering and correction and all that, it takes away from, look, you're on the trainer to train and to do a workout or to ride with your friends. Sometimes you want to switch the brain off. And that's what I like about these direct drive trainers or the locked-in trainers. You're just sitting there. You can sit up and you can watch your iPhone or you can watch the tour on another screen and not have to steer. If it was always on steering, yeah, there's too much brain power involved in that. I'm not saying it's impossible to do in a good way, but I also think this allows the smart bike integration with the additional buttons those smart bikes have on the inside of the levers to do lane selection or the veering lane selection, if that makes sense, rather than turning the bars. Because look, turning the bars indoors isn't like real steering. You're not leaning. There's no counterbalancing and steering. It's just controlling the game. So I think the button integration is going to work, and this version of steering, how they've implemented it, will work with smart bikes, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Nathan, as Ray mentioned there, and indeed Shane has said as well, I mean, this will have huge appeal to racers. Just as a catch-up, where are we at the moment on steering being enabled in races? Is it in all races, some events? Does the organizer have a choice? Where are we?
It's a good question because it seems that you can not sneak in, like some you jump in and it just happens to be on. And it was missed, I think, because the intention is not to have it on right now unless it has been pre-set up by Zwift to say, okay, it can be on. I know some organizers have requested and it was denied, I think, in order to keep things fair so that an organizer then isn't superseding the general rules that Zwift is trying to make, that the upfront expectations from Zwift offering an event is not going to make them feel cheated because they jumped in where somebody has an unfair advantage with steering. So, because I do know that there's been organizers wanting to turn it on and say, well, if people have it, they have it. If they don't, they don't. But we want it in ours. And that I don't think that has been said, okay. Now, I do know that people have jumped into races though, and it just happened to be on.
So, but that's probably a mistake. So it's Zwift's call, basically, whether a race has steering available or not. But what about group rides? Is that the same?
Yeah, definitely. No, I've definitely had it in group rides where, or even if it's not a race in quotes, but it's like a type of a fondo event or an event that is map, off the map or something like it's on there. So, and it's not a race like the ones that weren't races. And there was just a group ride, a large group ride with a time at the end and a finishing line, no result, page or anything given to you. It was on in there. I did plenty of off the maps with the Sturzo on and really, really enjoyed it actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the kind of housekeeping bit of it. I mean, no doubt this will sort of become clearer as people flock back inside as the days go a bit shorter. An announcement, Simon, also that over this weekend and the next couple of days, there have been FutureWorks types events set up by ZHQ events that are now steering enabled, and you can jump into them. They're race specific, and so there's a whole bunch of them throughout the entire weekend up until next week that just got announced too. Yeah. Okay. Well, setting aside that slightly confusing picture, I mean, as a tool for a racer, Nathan, in a steering-enabled race, would it make a difference? 100%. I absolutely loved it in the off-the-map stuff. I've been using it in all the situations that I can to get a feel for that, where it does get a little bit competitive in a group ride, and the ability to aim where my watts are going and when they're going there and have control over that 100% changed how I was interacting tactically with the rest of the pack. Then when there was one or two other people, I did a meetup with James Hodges and another couple of other guys that were old school Zwifters. We did this meetup and we started like watching how the tactics played with the variable of multiple Sturzos involved, and it completely changed the interaction. And to be honest, at this point, when I jump on Zwift without a Sturzo, I don't really want to pedal anymore. Really? I actually don't enjoy the game nearly as much now because I have lost some of the control. I have lost some of I want this still. Yep. Is that the same for you, Shane?
Yeah, look, in a workout, I don't want it or don't need it because it's about the wattages and I'm doing other things. My mind, again, is elsewhere, testing things. But when in free ride mode, when I was riding along, just like the kicker climb or the tilting of the kicker bike, it's not necessary, but when it's taken away, it's like, oh, hang on, I want that back again. Yeah. Steering, Nathan, I had exactly the same thing. I wanted to take the corners a little closer. I wanted to, maybe go wider around the corners to ride a little further because the distance is changed just a little bit. I did miss it when it wasn't there.
I must say, I've not used it enough to be convinced either way. I've been on holiday and riding outside a lot, so I need to get my head around it. But plenty of people have, Shane. I mean, if the popularity stakes are decided by how fast it sold out, I mean, either Elite didn't make enough or this is incredibly popular. Which do you think it is?
A little from column A, a little from column B. I mean, in these times, I guess it's hard to. It's 2020. You can't predict anything. So I think it might have been a little more popular than they thought. Given FutureWorks is beta by any other name, but don't call it a beta. It's FutureWorks. It's not really baked or cooked. It's not the final product. And to invest in a piece of hardware of something that we don't know is going to be implemented or not or how, they might have thought it wasn't going to be that popular. But apparently it is. I guess the proof is in the pudding there. When I jump on, when Ray jumps on, when Nathan jumps on, and when we saw Nathan, was it James Hodges riding in one of the races with it and just stepped away from everyone on the dirt? That was awesome. I think that the initial reaction is genuine reaction of, hey, this is cool. And I think my wow moment was at 19 minutes into my video there, Simon, the little excerpt you played there, when I swept back from on someone's wheel and jumped off and then back on their wheel, just like outdoors. That was a bit of a wow moment. And I think people have went, you know what? That is, ready for the word, a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it literally is. I mean, it literally is, as you rightly point out. Nathan, general community reaction. I mean, the racers, racers do what racers do. They get a bit kind of overblown and uptight about things. But we'll get onto that later. But I mean, the general community reaction. Obviously, there's a couple of Jonas. I mean, there'll be a couple of Jonas if Zwift said, I'm giving everybody $1 million. But, it generally seems to be well received.
Yeah, super well received, and I haven't seen anyone I haven't seen anyone go unfair. Not a single.
Yeah.
In my interactions in these group rides where it got competitive, I have not seen. They've gone, whoa, I want one. Like they go, well, okay, that's happening, and they're like, whatever. That's really, how's it working, mate? Okay, and they get kind of like, then they get super intrigued rather than offended, actually. So the receiving this addition to the game seems to be super well received, and people are all about, next thing I know, they're messaging me, I ordered one or something, or I'm looking to get one. So very well received by the community from all stances that I can see.
Yeah. Shane, one or two tiny isolated reports of not the world's best battery seal leading to corrosive sweat. What is it with sweat? It gets everywhere. Anywhere it can get, it gets, doesn't it?
Look,
I think that's a tiny teething problem, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've taken mine apart to see how it all works because I was interested in see how it works. The battery compartment could use a little, waterproofing. However, it's not a problem after, I was going to say hundreds of hours use, hundreds of kilometers of use. I haven't had that problem, and I saw the rust photo posted online there, and I thought, how the hell
did that get in? Yeah.
I know. And I'm thinking, okay, did I miss this? Because I've had a Sturzo standard for a while, and I've had a Sturzo Smart for a few weeks prior to release. It wasn't even enabled. I just had it to use, ready for the build to drop. I'm thinking, how did I miss that? And I'm looking down. I'm like, oh, I ride my road bike, and I've got two fans in front of me, or one in front, one to the side. All the sweat that I do drops straight down or back. If you're a time trialer and you're over top of the bars, and then you're dripping straight down, But I tell you what, you're going to have to be sweating buckets to make that a problem. However, it was a real problem. It was up, and I guess this will be addressed with updates, I guess, or something like that. Only one case of that, or two cases. We haven't seen very many with the hundreds of them out there, though.
Yeah, no. I think, it's important not to get these things out of proportion. I think that is a tiny, possibly even unique case.
An indoor trainer would suffer the same problem if you sweated all over it. They are computers. They really are. There's circuitry there. There's zappy bits. So you need to keep the water away from the zappy bits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's big thumbs up, actually. Huge thumbs up for us from steering. I need to try it more. And like you say, it's a bit like one of those things that once you've got it, it's a bit like Di2. Once you've ridden it, you don't want to go back to anything else. So
my favorite thing about it is the interactions with the pack at this point, though, because nobody else have one, and you can just like road rash them. You just like
the shoulder checks.
You can just like bounce into them over and over again. And then my first live stream was all that. When main thing when you don't have it, though, is the idea that I have to push my way through with my watts rather than just go around everybody. Yeah. You get super annoyed by that change, though. But yeah, the road rash fun. I saw that, Shane. You can just go back and forth knocking in because you can't go through them anymore. So you just have fun.
It doesn't affect them at all. Yeah.
It's just, no, it doesn't affect anybody. It's great.
Reversing to the inner child. It doesn't take much, does it? Okay. Well, next on my list, not next on that big list I read out, but next on this list, because it is related. And it's something we've been asking for ages and ages and ages and ages and ages. And it's PacerBots. We still don't have a PB bot. I think we might have to place that one, boys, in the it's never going to happen basket. But we do have 3 or is it 4 PacerBots? Basically, there's one that goes really, 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 really stupidly fast, just fast, medium, and slow. And these guys and girls are indefatigable and omnipresent. They never stop, and they're always there. Hello to, in descending order of pace, Amelia Oncatil, Bowie Brevitt, that's a strange name, Coco Cadence, and my favourite, Diesel Dan. If you want the proper numbers of what all these do, as ever, head to Zwift Insider for the full authoritative guide. But we don't really do authoritative, lads. We do impressionistic and opinionated. So, Nathan, your opinion, your impressions. Do you chase Amelia or merely hang with Dan?
I jumped in with Coco Cadence on Tempest Fugit. That's where Coco was hanging out, and that was my only. And then I also jumped in with Bowie yesterday or the day before. but they get off at a certain time.
Oh, do they? They're not always there.
Yeah, me and Jonathan Levi were actually chatting about this because I was live streaming. I was like, I'm going to jump with the PacerBots. And that was kind of like the feature of the live stream. And Bowie jumped off right away, said, thanks a lot, but I'm tired and I got to go. And I was like, why? Where are you going, buddy? We just got started, so I've only had a chance to hang out with those two. My only feedback is more bots. I don't know if you saw in my post on Zwift Riders, but more bots, please. I just want, because I want to be able to jump in at my time that I get on, and after the kids go to bed, or when I'm done with work late at night, usually around 10 p.m. CST, and or maybe 11. And at that point, it's like no bots around anymore. So I would just like to see just a more 24-hour consistency, because I think there is a certain portion of the world that's not getting access to them.
That's really weird. I just assumed, obviously stupidly, that they were perpetual. I mean, why wouldn't they be perpetual? They don't have to stop and eat bananas, these people, they're just ones and zeros. Well, I mean, why would they not be perpetual?
My guess is that it has something to do with, I think it has to do with how they're operating. Right. So I think it has something to do with taking a rest. Actually, that is not in there. Maybe they're being honest about, I need to take a rest. So I really enjoy it, though. It's really great fun hanging out around it. It's kind of an always going on group ride. And it's a new social aspect for me, actually, that will also be an ad hoc group ride I don't have to wait for. If I do sign up for an event, it's got to be on here still, and I still have to go through and I maybe have to wait till 11, maybe I have to wait till 11:30. Instead, it's almost like a quick queue up that you have in other MMOs where it just puts you all together real quick and go do your thing.
Yeah. I have talked about this before, and I think I'm one of only about 10 people in the world who remembers this. But there used to be, way back, I mean, probably, maybe 15 years now, that long, possibly. Time slips away. But there used to be a program called Netathlon, right? And on Netathlon, which was a virtual cycling program, and on Netathlon, they had this thing called an Ultra Rabbit. I've talked about this before, and it was a bot. Okay. But the really cool thing about this bot was it rode just ahead of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Ouch.
And if you speeded up, it speeded up. So it was constantly a rabbit to chase. But the really clever thing about it, which just seems so advanced now for its time, was it wouldn't speed up fast. It wouldn't speed up enough to drop you. So it was always visible. So if you'd gone really hard for 10 minutes and you needed a rest, the rabbit bot would all, even though it would stay ahead of you, it would always drop back to you. So it must have been reading your speed or wattage and reacting accordingly in probably quite a crude way, but it didn't appear crude in the game. Really, it was such a clever thing. I mean, that's the future for these things, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That's where things will be heading with this. There's a lot of data to be mined from, I guess, your previous PBs, maybe even your target races, maybe even an FTP test where they could just dangle that carrot out there just a little bit ahead of you, and maybe even have it encourage you a little bit, like, come on, slowpoke, let's go. Or depending on what, you select the level of encouragement from 1 to 10.
Get on with it, fat lad, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nathan, this is... And we are going to touch upon this towards the end of the episode in terms of the way things are happening and what is happening with Zwift across the entire platform, esports. But these are the things that Zwifters want, aren't they?
Yeah. What's interesting is it's kind of an interactive game almost, right? That you jump into with this bot, and everybody can kind of, it would be cool if it did interact. I mean, think if those messages, just in a basic, very crude way, if those messages weren't just pre-programmed, but everybody could kind of do something and the bot would respond in some sort of way, or, those little fun kind of things, I think, are something that could be added to a feature that we all can participate in ad hoc to jump in and do, who's racing the train right now, or who's doing that. And I think these bots are one of those features that people will be attracted to. We'll have to wait and see, though. I mean, I really dig it. It seems like a lot of the bots are being ridden with. People are talking about it. I'm not on during the day quite as much to see how much is going on there. My time is mainly when they're logging off, but the group was fairly large. I think we had 15 to 20 that were hanging out. Be interesting to see as we get into more of the deep Zwift season, how many are hanging out with these bots. But definitely this is the kind of stuff that is being, I think that Zwifters want. They want more features like this that are added that they can interact with and have fun with.
Shane, steering and bots, I mean, they're immediately relevant to all Zwifters.
That's the thing, and that's what I do like. Things that enhance the experience for every Zwifter, be it if you're a 1 watt per kilo rider, be it if you're a 6 watt per kilo rider. If you're a subscriber, you can get benefit from these, and that's what I do like. I was just thinking then, though, imagine if the bots could enter events too. So you almost have PacerBots for an event. Yeah. So we have the Haute Route France coming up on the 18th, and there's some, those events are absolutely brutal. Thousands and thousands enter. It'd be great to see some PacerBots on the line with the same wattage that they hold, because there's always going to be someone to ride with. And because they're a glowing beacon color, you can really identify them on screen. I'd like these PacerBots. I'm putting it out there now. I invite the PacerBots along to a few events to see how they go.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, Park Run, which is a huge thing in the UK. I don't know if it's big with you, but my local Park Run, they have pacer runners. So, they'll have somebody running in a particular 5K pace, which again, that kind of draws a crowd on the Park Run. So I could see the way that would work. Excellent. Well, I mean, they're two great developments, really, and it'd be really interesting, and I think will be received with much gratitude by Zwifters if they develop quickly over the indoor season that is going to be upon us before we know it. Okay, that's enough kind of wittering from us for the time being. Although, to be fair, we have had a lot to witter about, and there's going to be further wittering later, including some wittering about SurveyGate. But for now, let's talk to someone else. The Academy schemes have just been announced, with various dates in the coming days for registration for the men, the women to try, and the all-new running academies. They'll kick off as the days grow shorter and the nights get longer. Again, for specifics, I'd direct you to Zwift Insider, because there's all kinds of different dates when they start. But we're doing a big picture because that's what we do. And this is the big picture. There's been quite a revamp of the Academy schemes. And whilst pro contracts are still up for grabs, this is now not the main focus. The main focus this year is on proper training programs for the vast mass of Zwifters. There's some marketing tagline which escapes me for the moment, something about unlocking the faster you, or some such marketing speak. But, these are aimed at everybody now, not just people who are interested in pro cycling, or maybe interested in getting a pro contract, or maybe tagging along in that kind of scene. These are very much aimed at everyone. Anyway, let's talk to the brains behind the programs. And these are new brains behind the programs at Dig Deep, a training company based in Northern Ireland. Well, welcome to the Dig Deep team, Stephen Gallagher and Dan Fleeman. Hi, guys.
Hello. Hiya.
So I'm going to ask you to give each other's bios, if you will, quickly. Let's keep this fairly slick. Dan, why does Stephen know his stuff?
So Stephen was professional, and Stephen, as a rider, was quite modest, but he won the RAS in Ireland, he won the Tour of Taiwan overall, and then since retiring from racing, he's become a coach, and so he's over 10 years now of coaching experience, and he's coached many riders, from pure amateurs right up to professional riders, and, taking people right to national titles on many disciplines as well. So he's got a wealth of experience.
Stephen, are you blushing? I hope you're going to be as nice about Dan.
But again, Dan is one of the most analytical people you will meet when it comes to detail of certainly wattages, equipment, attention to detail. So he's quite particular in that, and I think that lends him quite well to being part of the Zwift community. Plus, he's also one of the top Zwifters. I'm going to make him blush. So he's one of the top ranked Zwifters in the world, and is quite prominent in the Zwift community, and competes a lot. So our understanding of the esports and virtual world of cycling is quite good, I would say.
He sounds amply qualified, the numbers guy. Okay, well, listen, we're going to split this interview into two. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions for Stephen. Stephen, the program this year, I think it's pretty significantly different, actually. So just tell me, what was in your mind as you approached the design of the program? Let's talk about the road cycling program.
So the big thing for us is first of all, is the education of the athlete, is looking at their, not just the progression in the short term, but the long term, helping expand their knowledge and learning more about themselves. I think that's the key fundamental here, is that, with the Academy, we're trying to not just look at progression over a week or 2 weeks, or getting fitter for the third week. It's using the structure of the workouts plus the group rides, segment rides, and just, of course, the information and the content that we're giving out around it is educating about energy systems, the core energy systems that we use, potentially each person's strengths and weaknesses for their performances, and having that going forward is very much the part and the mainstay of the Academy this year.
And Dan, I think you've kind of headed up this whole sort of on-screen narrative that we're going to get, which will lead to better athlete education. I mean, how important is that? And to be honest, mate, how much of that can be achieved with 20 or 30 word sentences once every 15 seconds, or whatever format it takes?
If there is specific aims that we want people to achieve, that's when we put the text in there. And sometimes it's motivational as well, because you kind of don't need to focus on what's coming up later. You just need to focus on the there and now. So get that bit of the session done and then worry about what's coming up later. So that's why it just flashes up when they need to know. But then on the other hand of that, it's a case of there's certain periods in the recovery periods where we don't want people to go too hard. We actually want them to really back off and save those biscuits, if you like, for the workload that's coming on. So some people have a problem with they ride too hard all the time. So these visual cues are really to make people push on when they need to push on, but also to back off when they need to back off.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Dan. Trainer Road does this very well and does it very, very, very effectively, to be quite honest with you. And it is an important part of completing an interval, is knowing why you're completing that interval. And it sounds like this program this year is going to provide a lot more active guidance. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
we want people to be educated by the program. So we want them to complete the program and then have a better understanding of where their strengths and weaknesses lie. And then they can work on those, going forward. So, it's very much about an educational experience.
Now, it makes a lot of sense. So, Stephen, I mean, the question that the average cyclist is going to ask when they embark on this program is, how much fitter am I going to be at the end of it? I mean, what sort of progression might an averagely fit cyclist see if they graduate the program?
But my recommendation would certainly be try and, get into the program early and, take your time to go through the sessions to complete them. And the big key is that you're going into them fresh and that you're not doing too much in between the intensity, the group rides, the segment rides, and the workouts, because they are quite demanding. If you go into them slightly fatigued and you then do 1 or 2 hard sessions back to back, you're going to come out of it, on a downward spiral. But over the course of 2 months, I mean, the thing that I would say is keeping your immune system healthy, keeping your nutrition good, looking at, hitting your targets of the sessions, not sort of over egging yourself either, keeping within your ranges. I mean, you should be seeing, especially in the places that you're weak in, you should be seeing quite a good boost in your fitness, or certainly seeing inroads into developing them certain areas.
I can absolutely understand your reluctance to kind of put a number on it, because too many variables, too many different fitness levels going into it. I get that. I think it's probably fair to say, and it's a good way, I think, to encourage people who perhaps not so used to structured training, that if you're a beginner cyclist or less experienced with structured training, you're definitely going to see more gains, aren't you?
As a beginner, you will see gains quite quick. And again, I'll say this to beginners, is making sure that you don't over egg and don't overstep your limits, because it just takes 1 or 2 sessions to go over your limit, a wee bit too much, and then you can start to tie up a wee bit too much, and the fatigue rating gets a little bit too high for you to complete the other sessions to the best of the quality. But a beginner and somebody who's never done a structured program before or structured training is probably going to see the biggest jumps in their fitness. And again, I would say keeping healthy, keeping nutrition good, making sure you have plenty of time to do the sessions, not cramming. Keep to them core fundamentals. You're going to come out of this a lot better, a lot healthier, and certainly with a bigger knowledge.
It's a very clear message you're putting out there, which is, stick with the program, guys. Don't try and finish the damn thing in 3 weeks when it should take 2 months. And I think that's a very good message. Dan, are you going to be? When the Academy program first started, I remember the excitement around the first year, and a lot of that excitement came from engagement with the community and being able to answer people's questions and to, really have a two-way dialogue with people as they go through a fitness program, which is super important for people being coached. Are you going to try and up the game a bit there?
We've already started by making videos basically explaining all the sessions, all the workouts, all the segment rides. So they're all going to be launched when the plan launches. And then we're going to be active on all of there's the ladies' Facebook page, there's the men's Facebook page. We're going to be active on those, answering questions. If we have to, if we get a lot of questions that are similar and people need more information, we will do more videos to explain that. And the other thing is, so myself and Stephen are both, we're members of the Zwift community. We're both active on there. We're both race on there, we both ride on there. So, I fully expect that while I'm doing that, people are going to, hit me up with questions, and I'm more than happy to answer to the best of my ability. So yeah, we're going to be fully active on all of the social media channels, the best we can. So we invite people to ask questions.
Back with Dan and Stephen towards the end of the pod to look at the pro side of things. Guys, they've always had a bit of an identity crisis, the academies, with this dual message of, maybe become a pro and or train on Zwift. I just think it's always been a tricky message for the marketing people to get across. And as a result of that, I do think it's sowed a bit of confusion. And my impression is probably proved completely wrong by participation figures, but my impression is that the academies, didn't make the splash that they did in the very early days. But with this emphasis, as Stephen and Dan explained there, on athlete education and getting people to understand why they're doing the things that they're doing, I do think this is going to appeal more to all Zwifters. Do we approve of that approach, Shane?
Yeah, I think it's developed over the years and from the community, because the first year that it ran, it was all about the pro, who's going to turn pro. And that was the message. That's it. Who's going to turn pro? Who's going to be selected? And the community are like, oh, maybe not me, but I'm going to join in. And the numbers went up, and the next year, even more people came along, It became about the community, not about who's going to be selected as a pro. Sure, that's the results. And that's always going to be, I guess, the ultimate goal of these academies run. But it's more about the community. And again, looping back to what we said before, if it appeals to everyone, I'm all for it. Look, running all these three at once, I think that's a good idea. We'll see how that pans out. A lot of the time,
don't forget four. Don't forget running.
Did I forget running?
I know everybody does. I know.
Is there a rowing academy yet, or do we not?
No running. No. Okay. So we've got men, women, try and running. I mean, I'm counting that as four.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe we should. Yeah. Okay. I know what you're doing. You're going road cycling. Sockless people and the runners.
Correct. But let's see how it pans out. It's good. I get lost in the message of, I'm a roadie. So the tri stuff comes along. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, next. And then the running stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a runner. So I look at all the roadie stuff. So look, running all at once, you're not going to get lost in the message. You'll choose your own lane, or you'll veer towards the lane that you're in with your so smarts. And yeah, we'll see how it pairs out. You can, I guess, choose the training programs that you're after for that. And they've always well attended. Like any of these larger events, like the Tour of Watopia, the Haute Route, they're always well attended. Even recently, there was one that was a couple of hundred. There's at least 400 to 500 people every single event they ran. One of the specialized things. However, these are the same. There's tons of people doing tons of training. And if they're a group training ride where you're all going through the same pain and the same intervals, all at different paces because it's suited to yourself, I'm all for it. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember whether it's in the bit that we've just heard, actually, but certainly in one of the edited pieces that with Stephen and Dan, there's another one coming up later in the pod. They said that they're expecting 100,000 people to sign up, which is huge. Absolutely.
Will the PacerBots be in those? Are the PacerBots going to take? Because we don't want the PacerBots to win. That'd be a bit awkward.
Yeah, I don't know if a training plan would work on a PacerBot. Or maybe we could get Diesel down up to a media standard. Who knows? And Nathan, I know you've got a real interest in this, and it's really interesting to hear that we're going to get many more details on screen and even videos and lots of supporting content. I think there's going to be stuff on the web as well about why we're doing what we're doing on these training programs, what benefits each individual session achieves. They were very keen, those two chaps, to hammer home, even at this early stage, the crucial importance of rest and not overreaching on a program like this. Athlete education is the kind of buzzword. I think that's a great move, don't you?
Yeah, and I think there isn't a better duo to get this done. You know, Stephen Gallagher and Dan Fleeman. Dan Fleeman obviously being a part of Cyrus the Pros Closet, former UCI World Tour, and he is enmeshed. I commentated on Dan's efforts yesterday in the SCR race, community race. He's a part of a ton of the Invitationals, one of the top teams. So he knows what he's doing when it comes to both in real life as well as in Zwift. And Stephen Gallagher, this guy was a part of a lot of our broadcasts when it came to the Tour de France years back, where we were doing replicated Tour de France efforts on Zwift during the Tour de France for that day, and looking back at what was done of an analysis for the winner or for one of the top pros that took this place, and then trying to replicate that through workouts. And so this guy, he knows how to look at segments, knows how to see what, and they released these awesome graphics with segments showing what those power outputs were and what it took to get there, and would analyze that and say, okay, how are these people training to get to that point? And so I think it's really cool how they're taking these segments now in Zwift, and that's part of the program to see how well you can do on a specific segment in Zwift. And that's kind of their forte, is like, hey, let's actually make this applicable to your racing and your riding. And so great guys to do this. They know their stuff. And I absolutely love their involvement in this, because they've been really, really committed to the world of coaching and Zwift at the same time and integrating it. And they're perfect for the Zwift Academy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a bit of a rebirth of the Academy schemes this upcoming season, which is really good to see, because, there's a lot of merit both in the talent identification program and the idea of a community-based, mutually supportive training program. I've long been a supporter, but I think we just got a bit bored of them, and this feels like a rebirth, which is a very, very good thing. Let's move on to, I know I feel a bit late with this, but goodness me, what a kerfuffle that survey caused. I've not seen so much outrage in the Zwift community since the price rise furore. And of course, the thing that promoted much of the ire was, you guessed it, the old filthy lucre. Quick recap: for very good reasons, which it must be said were not made clear at all, a survey was sent to Zwifters which raised the spectre of monthly subscription prices as high as $40-something. There was outrage, there were threats, there was flouncing. All a bit misplaced, as it turned out, because as the CEO himself, Eric Min himself, was moved to make clear, the whole $40-odd thing was merely one element of some massively obscure marketing tool or technique. There was never, ever, ever a plan to charge that amount, but it was an example of perhaps not the best management of communications with the community. That never happens, right? Thing is though, Shane, if you set even that theoretical hair running, and to be honest, the use of the word theoretical is probably a bit strong, because this was never, ever, ever going to happen. But if you set that hair running, you can't be surprised when there's an outbreak of mass flouncing.
Every week is a new gate. I love it. There's always something going on. Look, the anger people posted on this, it's all part of the feedback process. So the people who quit the platform because of this, well, look, I didn't get the survey, so I'm just going to have to leave it to people who did to carry the flame on that one. It's, for me, time spent better riding a bike.
Yeah. I mean, I once it was explained, I kind of got... I began to see the reasons. And Nathan, none of us are survey experts. And actually, I've been thinking about this since this all kicked off, thinking about why Zwift chose to do it in this way. I guess if the survey invite had contained that explanation about the $40 a month thing, it could possibly have kind of prevented the survey achieving its aim, if you like, which was to get Zwifters to assign a value to certain features. I mean, that was the explanation given, that this was some incredibly sophisticated marketing technique where they, the only thing that people really care about is money, apparently. So to find out, the kind of strength of feeling for the desire for certain features, you have to attach a monetary value to it, and then they've got to put it together in packages, and it all got very complicated. But the point is, had that been explained up front, it may have prevented the survey from achieving its aim, he said, desperately trying to find a way of explaining why Zwift seemed to mess this up so badly.
I have like 3 different things to say, 4 to 5 different things to say that I feel like.
That escalated quickly.
I mean, 1, timing, and have you released anything? And are people already mad about not releasing things? So like, wait, you want me to pay for things I was already expecting that were coming down the road? Wait, what? Like, regardless of $40 or not $40, like, you want me to pay? Are you communicating that you want me to pay for these things at all? Huh? What? Like, I think that's where people were going. And then, like, okay, if you're really just trying to gauge what do we want or not, don't talk about money. Just tell us, hey, what do you want or not? Like, what do you put as a higher value? And so when you started connecting money to it in that kind of way, I think you were already lighting a fire where, and if an explanation wasn't given about upfront where resources might need to go and why, or, if you want to be that transparent, you got to get super transparent then. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be like, all right, this is almost a democracy, and here's what you're voting on about why we're going to put resources where we don't even have them right now in order to get more development around this. I think that if you go that route, so anyways, I think timing and what you are communicating about what's getting paid for, and people who already are like, I want more bots. You know what I mean? like we just talked about that. So, and they're like, well, why don't we have more bots? And so, the amount of, again, I'll go back to the amount of transparency that you will have to have in order to make people happy with a survey like that. I'm not sure any company is willing to do in this in this market that seems to be getting competitive.
Yeah. I don't know. I was in two minds about the whole thing. I mean, my thing is that Zwift does not communicate with sufficient clarity or sufficient frequency with the community. I mean, I've said this to them to their face time and time and time again, and this just seemed to me to be another example of that. Anyway, it's all luckily water under the bridge now, and we can forget about it. But very interesting to see the passions that it rose, the passions that arose around it. Anyway, maybe some lessons learned there. Who knows?
Right on.
Okay, well, let's move on. And it's time to play a little Zwiftcast game. I know how much you two enjoy these. So here's the rules. Zwift has a new scheme where experienced Zwifters can get paid. You get paid actual money to deliver advice and solve problems to new Zwifters who are struggling to get going or have hit some kind of bump in the road. It's a really good idea, actually. It'd be very interesting to see how it works. Now, none of us have been invited to become these new Zwift ambassadors. And to be honest, that's probably a pretty good call in my case. I'm not really very good at that stuff. But you two are. So here we go. Let's do a couple of dummy runs to prove that Zwift has missed a trick by not asking you two to take part. So this is like a job interview, okay? A bit of role play. All right. I am going to be taking the role of the Zwifter with a problem, and let's see how you solve it. Shane, you can go first. I mean, I know normally this would be text, but we'll pretend it's like a phone support thing, okay? And Nathan, you are going to decide whether Shane gets the job based on how well he handles this call. So here we go. Hi, Shane. My name's Simon, and I've got a problem.
Hi, you've called Zwift tech support community version or something. If your call is about technical support, press 1. If your call is about account information and billing, press 2. If you're not level 50 and don't have the Tron bike, hang up now and call back when you're a real Zwifter.
No, you've got to be a real person. You've got to be a real person. That's the whole point of this. Now. That's the whole point of this.
This is an automated message. Please make your selection. I've outsourced this already. That was not even coming from me at all. That was outsourced. That's how you do it. That's a PacerBot right there.
Here's my real problem. Okay, I've seen this really shiny bike in the game. It sort of glows and stuff, and I haven't got this bike. Shane, why don't I have this bike? I'm level 48 or something. Why haven't I got this bike?
Let me look up your account details here, Simon. You're nowhere near level 48. Simon, you're mid-30s or something like that. Now,
no,
it appears that you have an account ID of in a single digit too. So you've had the most opportunity than anybody else other than the founders of Zwift to get this bike. I'm going to have to escalate this to level 2.
I don't understand.
I don't know what's going on here. This is just pure laziness, I think.
I don't understand what I've not done. You're not helping me to understand, to get to the bottom of my problem here.
As tech support, I don't want to offend you, but the answer is pretty clear. You just haven't written enough at all. It's just laziness. My logs here show you haven't even done an FTP test. What's going on? No, look, you're going to have to call back when you're level 50. This tech support's only for Tron bike owners, so I'm going to have to end the call here. Thanks for calling.
Nathan, I'm going to have to score him low on empathy on that. I mean, do you think he'd get the job based on that?
I definitely think that he's definitely fired. The next thing you need to do though is say, well, I've been perusing your Instagram. It just looks like you ride outside way too much as well. What are you doing? You don't even Zwift. Are you even a Zwifter? Like, you say you have this Zwift load number and been around are you a part of Zwift? I mean, what is even happening here? So yes, I would definitely agree with his assessment. What in truth, but truth does not always keep a customer. So I think
exactly. I mean, this is where you fell down, Shane. Too much Aussie honesty. No, you're not getting a job. You're not getting a job. Okay,
that was the goal. That was the goal. Okay. Excellent. Right. I remain self-employed.
Let's try this with Nathan. Okay, so here we go, Nathan. You're at Zwift HQ, and my name is Simon, and I've got a problem, Nathan.
I can't even.
He laughs.
Hi, Simon. Thanks a lot for calling. My name's Nathan. And what seems to be the problem?
The problem is, Nathan, that I can't get this Zwift game to work very well. And all my friends say it's because I've got my PC is a potato. I don't know what they mean.
I'd have to agree with you that there's a problem. It's probably because you can't plug it in. I think that's the problem, is you can't plug can you not connect? No, I'll leave that one alone. So, okay, I'll help. I was trying to go somewhere with that one. It didn't work at all. So your potato, what do you mean by potato? Like, you have slow frame rates? Like, what are you even using as a Mac? Is it a PC?
I'm just confused. My friends say potato. Should I get an apple instead of a potato? Which is the right way to go here?
What kind of
one of my friends has a BlackBerry. Do I need a BlackBerry?
So what is your preferred platform? Would you like to, did you know that Zwift can be used on multiple platforms, not only a PC? So if you do have an Android, an iOS, or a Mac, or an Apple TV, you would be able to use it on those as well. So you could swap over to something that might be able to function a little bit better than maybe what your friends are calling a potato.
Oh, okay. How do I know if any of those is a potato, Nathan?
Was it purchased in the last? I mean, I don't know. Oh, man, that's a tough one. Like, that is a really, really, really tough one.
Shane.
You know, does it have a dedicated graphics card is the first question I would ask. If you don't know what a graphics card is, because your friends tell you what a potato is and you don't know what that is, I mean, we're going to we just know too much. We're just going to make people feel stupid. That's what's going to end up happening.
Well, do you know what, Shane? At least Nathan made an attempt. Yeah, at least he made an attempt there.
We were already in troll mode. In my defense, I was like already in troll mode because of how Shane went at it, so I didn't take it that seriously. But I did make a half attempt.
Nathan was able to reel off the platforms that Zwift runs on, so there's points for that for sure. Opening the phone call with a laugh, though, there's negative points.
I know.
Well, how am I supposed to take it seriously? Like the
You've
way
got to be
that we started that?
You've got to take the callers' hand and guide them through this difficult journey. Not laugh at them.
We're going to stick to the podcast, I think, guys. We are no good at tech support.
No, I don't think. No. I think that generally, big picture, that is very much the case. Okay, well, good luck to the Zwift ambassadors. I hope they perform an awful lot better than the Zwiftcasters did in this task. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the eSports World Championships will be on Zwift this year. Hard on the heels of the virtual Tour de France, it's another major coup for the platform, with official UCI partnership, with UCI-approved rainbow jerseys being awarded, and with the likely participation of a lot of big-name pro riders. This will be another huge marketing event for Zwift, with the added bonus of it taking place, I think, in December, but certainly much, much closer to peak indoor season rather than July, which was the virtual Tour de France, which clearly wasn't peak indoor riding season. We could probably expect further improvements to the already rapidly improving broadcast production values. And in a very, very difficult year for sport, this is almost certainly another big step on the path towards Olympic recognition for indoor riding. It would be a fool who said that this was not a good decision by Zwift. And don't get me wrong, I totally get the logic, I get the business case, and I see the vision thing here. I really do. But you knew there was a but coming, didn't you? From the point of view of the broad mass of Zwifters, the Zwift community, which the Zwiftcast is here to represent, there's just a couple of worries creeping in for me around the edges of these marquee events focused on pro cycling. And for me, this boils down to two areas, which happily my fellow Zwiftcasters are beautifully equipped to opinionate about, and will hopefully make a much better job than they did with tech support. Shane, the first one is for you. We now know there won't be a new map for the Worlds, as there normally is. Now, you know, there are really, 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 really good reasons for this. At the time of recording, I think only a few hours ago, they made a decision about where the IRL event is going to be, and it's going to be at Imola in Italy. So the time available to make a course based on that in time for the eWorlds obviously is horribly short. So, you know, we have to accept that. We have to accept there's a very, very kind of good excuse for no new map around the Worlds this year. But the community might say, well, you know what? I don't really care so much about racing and e-racing and esports, but I do like it that I get a new map each year to ride. Then at least I get some benefit from the whole esports thing, which I don't really care too much about. Not this year. The wider community might also say there's so much attention being given to esport that game development is suffering and I'm not getting the new features I want. Now, I'm putting a very strong case here, and I'm probably exaggerating it, and I'm possibly not taking into account the fact that not everybody who works at Zwift is working on esports. Far from it. That, it's not how the company works. But on these bigger points that where I'm kind of putting words into the mouth of Zwifters, but I have seen these words used, fair or unfair.
Again, it's 2020. It's just throwing curveballs in every direction. Look, new maps are always welcome. But look, at the end of the day, you give two cyclists any piece of road and they'll make it a race. So for the course that was announced for the UCI Esports Worlds, which was going to be 4 or 5 laps of Watopia Hilly Reverse and then to the Volcano KOM, I did a recon of that last night. It's a great course. It took me probably about 2 hours just chatting away and just rolling along with the chat crew. It's going to be tough though, so it's going to be a good watch. But I guess the question remains, as you said there, Simon, look, with all these developments in cycling and esport, what's in it for every Zwifter? The UCI Road Worlds is for 200 people, I think. So what's in it for the 250,000 other active subscribers? Again, a number I've just pulled out of the cloud there. Previously, that has meant a new map, and in turn means new events, new route badges, fresh tarmac. This year, again, 2020, I've got no idea where things are going to lead.
Do you think that the broad mass of Zwifters who may not be interested, do you think they've got a point? I suppose the question I'm putting to you here is, some people say, and there is a feeling in the community, that esports is a distraction from the things that are kind of more important to more Zwifters. Now I do feel that that's not a sufficiently nuanced opinion. That the marketing value of these things is huge, absolutely enormous, and more people, more subscribers means more money for development. So as ever, it's not black and white and it's not simple. But can you see why some people think this?
The reality is we don't know where the resources are carved up internally at Zwift and who's working on what. What we do see, though, is the public-facing side of things, which is the marketing, which is the esports side of things. So everyone sees what's being published and pushed and promoted because marketing is esport. It brings people in. Without knowing what's behind those covers, who knows? It could be the reverse Wizard of Oz. We could see one thing and there could be hundreds of behind the scenes doing a lot of stuff, or there could be just one person pulling the strings. We just don't know. And I think that's just the misconception there from that people can only be single-tasked, and there is only one person being that single-tasked person. I'm sure there's multitask, there's multiple threads, there's multiple projects running all at once. We just don't know, but I understand where that sentiment's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I think to an extent, you're right about the single tasking. Although I do know, just from talking to a few people inside Zwift, that the company-wide effort that went into the virtual Tour de France was huge. I mean, it was absolutely enormous and did soak up a lot of resources. But as you say, we don't get to see the spreadsheets. We've no idea at all how resources are allocated. Okay, well, the second point, Nathan, this is one for you. And thanks to some suboptimal communication from Zwift, I mean, we never see that, do we? There's some confusion about whether the best of Zwift racers will get the opportunity to compete against what's likely to be a pro-dominated field in the eWorlds events. And, well, surely it should mainly be pro riders, who said Zwifters are kind of qualified to be part of this field. And in the end, it's probably down to the national federations to make the choice. I think that's the way it's going to work. It is a developing story, this. I mean, I think the elite Zwifters could get in, but I think they've got to persuade the national federations, then they've got to make themselves available for anti-doping. So it's kind of quite complicated for the best of Zwift community riders to get a place on the start line in this event. So the racing community, in response to that, might well say, hang on, Zwift, we pioneered this when you weren't interested at all, and now you are interested. You're not really taking us with you. I kind of, again, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but do you think there's any justification in that point of view?
to grow sport, I have to really, and I'm a community guy though. I came out of the community. I was a part of how this happened. I turned the mic on. People started showing up, and you saw where I started that.
Yep.
You came here, Simon.
Yeah.
And so I'm a guy, and Vision Cycling, one of the original teams on Zwift, was born out of how do you make mountain biking a household sport. I saw Nike was doing a better job of it, and said, okay, I'm going to stop doing that and started focusing on more pro racing and developing things. So I've studied a lot about how do you make a sport though. And I really believe it does come out of localized community racing. And I give a shout out to Steve Beckett saying, look, we're developing an ecosystem, and I do see this as like, all right, we need to we need to do both end. And the announcement came first, though, that there's a UCI World because it's been asking for. And I think they're also like, wait a second, let's not forget this over here. Now, the big show, though, which I am a little frustrated with, I'm like, I think that the Zwifters need to own the Zwifting. And I think that the people who have committed to the platform, put the time in, and are the best Zwifters in the world, that's what you're looking for in an Olympic sport. You are looking for the best at that genre in the world. And that the current thing that I'm seeing is not aimed at that core value. The core value is who is the best at this sport, and let's celebrate that as a world champion. That person should be somebody who comes up through racing on Zwift, through merit, that has been earned in the community of Zwift racers. That is what a UCI World Championships should be about, in my opinion, when it comes to what sport is really about, what we want to celebrate at the Olympics. I think that Zwift is trying to figure that out right now. And I think they're trying to do both and open it up.
It's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. But of course, that does not serve the marketing gods, does it? Because if what's the best marketing tool? The best Zwifter who you've never heard of, or Peter Sagan? I mean,
Okay, so I have a question there. I have a question in return then. I mean, the best marketing tool, though, may be carrots to chase that are a much broader experience of what Zwift Academy could be in a racing community. Like a much, much longer term plan, like experience that gets more people involved. NICA will sell more bicycles for Trek than anything else in 5 years. Anything else that they do on their marketing campaign right now, the National Interscholastic Cycling Association will sell more mountain bikes for Trek, Specialized, and all the rest because they got juniors on their bikes who are going to be the fans in the future of what cycling is, just like all the people who watch football now in the NFL were kids who played at their local high school. Yeah. So you have to create a sport at that local raised up development level to get passion in it as a household tradition in people. And I think if we want to build a tradition of sport, we need to create that chase in it in the community.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of got there in the end, because it's a difficult nut to crack this. I mean, anybody would see the value of the virtual Tour de France and the eWorlds on Zwift in marketing terms. And if there's more bums on Zwift saddles, there's more money for development, and you've got to understand the marketing value and to some extent agree with the strategy that these are brilliant marketing tools. But as you alluded to there, maybe again this just comes back to my old hobby horse of communications with the community. So it was very significant that Steve Beckett jumped into the kerfuffle on races and said, that this ecosystem, which basically we think is going to be a set of leagues where you can progress through achievement. This is something Steve's talked about before on the Zwiftcast, and Eric Min has. But it was significant that Steve had to come in and make the point that this was definitely happening, and it was definitely happening soon, and he's taking personal responsibility for it. It is not a better communication strategy, Shane, to announce the eWorlds, but to throw a few bones to the community by perhaps just giving us some information about what they're going to be doing for community racing in conjunction with the eWorlds announcement.
Yeah, looking at bigger pictures of this is that promising something the community wants, that also means having to deliver. And it's very evident in recent months. There's always growing concern around what's been promised in the past to address what the community's been asking for and what's actually being delivered. Look, I think cycling esports is growing beyond just Zwift, but what Zwift need to do is ensure they provide what people want.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's a big community, community of racers, community of beginning cyclists. There are all kinds of constituencies now. There's not only one Zwifter. Finally, on this, Nathan, Zwift. To be honest, they've still got probably a monopoly, but there are a few kind of midges biting around. RGT does appear to be developing. Looks as though it's attracted some funding, and they would walk over broken glass to have a racing community as large and passionate as the one on the Zwift. Do you think some care needs to be taken here? Or more care being taken than is currently being taken, perhaps?
A little bit, yeah. I think, the other platforms don't look as nice. I mean, I'm just be straight. When I look at it, it doesn't look as nice. But if they're offering experience, though, in some spaces that they might feel served, it just happens. I just opened up. I have Facebook in front of me, and the top thing that pops up is a Zwifter that I know who is now streaming RGT. Which is interesting. And people are they're moving around a little bit, checking out what else is going on out there and seeing if something else will serve them better. So I don't think that it's immediate, this mass, there's not gonna be this mass exodus or anything like that, but there might just be some low, hanging fruit from a couple of individuals who want something very specific that they find in another platform right now that might, or just, some whinging that says, I'm going to go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they like the model better. I think RGT is doing a different model when it comes to how they make their money too. So not something to be super alarm bells. I think it's just look, there's competition and we need to pay attention to the competition and, excel in the places where they might want to be competing with, you know what I mean? Or maybe shore things up where they might want to try and take advantage. So.
And to be fair to Zwift, they are mindful of the racing community and what they need to do for them. As Steve's intervention, he's obviously not going to use the word panicked because I don't think it was panic, but Steve felt he had to intervene in that debate to remind the racing community that things were going to be offered to them. And again, this just gets back to my point about communicating with the community. Why not make those kind of two announcements in tandem, and it keeps more people more happy more of the time. But maybe there's real practical reasons that can't take place. Okay, well, while we're talking about pro riding and stuff, let's quickly return to Stephen and Dan from Elite Coaching and just hear about how the Academy programs are going to handle the pro contract side of things in these COVID days. Dan, you're going to be responsible for that talent identification program. Quite a big responsibility, that. Is it all about numbers? Are you going to do this wholly on numbers, or is there going to be some instincts involved and a bit more kind of deeper interrogation of the final few candidates? Are you going to look at this I hate this phrase, but you're going to look at this in a 360 way rather than just crunching numbers?
We're expecting 100,000 people to sign up. 68,000 last year, so we're expecting to be around 100,000. I was a pro myself, so I'm excited about that part of it. So first of all, obviously Zwift is very much about numbers, it's about power to weight, but there's a lot more to being a pro than having a high FTP. You need bike handling skills, you need to be able to cope with. The biggest thing for me when I was a pro one of the bigger things was the traveling. If you're making 3 or 4 flights a week, that takes a lot out of you. It's not just about the riding the bike. And then also to go back to what you said, there is no semi-final this year. So we're going straight into the final. So that's going to make our job a little bit harder, that we need to, go from 100,000 to 5. One of the harder things this year is the fact that because of COVID, it's very unlikely there's going to be a live final. It'll be done remotely. So other years, they got them together. Last year it was in South Africa on the NTT training camp. So you could see people, you could take them out on the bike, you could see how they handle the bike. So then we're going to have to do a little bit more research on my side. I'm going to have to look into, their background, because it'd be very difficult for me to put someone through to the final if they'd got no history at all of racing, because a big part of racing, is the race itself, the bike handling, all that skill set. So I'm going to have to do a lot more research than perhaps the guys did in previous years. I don't want to be responsible for putting someone into professional peloton who's completely out of their depth.
Personally, I think they've got their work cut out there, not being able to see the finalists in real life. Finding potential World Tour riders on paper only, that is a tough task. But they're very well qualified, so good luck to them. And we'll come back to the Academy, the Reborn Academy, I think, in later episodes of the podcast as the indoor season goes on. Okay, boys, well, we really have wittered a lot this episode. As I said earlier, there's been a lot to witter about. So let's finish with just a quick bit more wittering. The fence is back and it's been tweaked. Now flyers are not booted. They're just nagged half to death with endless, annoying messages. Better solution, Shane, do you think?
No, not at all. Nagging is not enforcement. It's a soft-handed approach. Look, if someone enters an event and they don't stick to the rules, give the ride leader the ability to boot them out or simply ghost them. Look, this isn't preschool, for God's sake. If people are doing the wrong thing, they're not entering the event to follow the rules, get them out, boot them out. Like, throw them a hook with a sterzo that actually puts them off the road.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I find nagging annoyingly effective. Like when Apple nag you to update your software. I mean, it's like somebody tapping on the window outside. Okay, I'll just do it then.
Windows updates every day.
Nagware. Yeah, I've got a nasty feeling it might be quite effective. I kind of agree with you. If people are ruining other people's experience, then let's just get rid of them rather than just simply nagging them. But maybe nagging works better. Nathan, completely unofficial and based on rumour only, but it seems that Club Jarvis may not be the only game in town soon. Talk is that some of the bigger clubs on Zwift are now being invited to take part in the whole club functionality thing. It's a rollout, Jim, but not as we know it. Any word on the street?
I actually haven't heard anything on that specifically from any clubs, which would be really interesting. People are being hush hush. Maybe they're supposed to be hush hush. But I'm excited to see that. I was really excited about Club Jarvis. I actually have it open in front of me right now, but it'll be fun at which point we are able to see in game, maybe a little bit competition, what clubs are what, some status around that whole thing. So I'm excited to see when that ends up, taking place and all the functionality that comes around with it. And it's definitely something we've been waiting for a while. And I think that feature specifically on the social aspect and getting things done together in Zwift is really going to take off. So we're really, really hoping that comes soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that's it. Awful lot of us going on, but that's because we've not been going on for a bit and there's been a lot to go on about. Shane, I assume as the season begins to turn, and I already see magpie swooping pictures being posted from Australian friends and you amongst them, but I assume as the season turns, you will look back on the Australian winter and the Northern Hemisphere summer uncharacteristically as an extremely good period for you on your YouTube channel, I would have thought.
March 18th went crazy. Typically, that was the downtime, and it only starts lifting now around the tech because Eurobike was meant to be on right now.
Yeah, it was.
The biggest trade show in the world for bicycles, where all the new trainers are announced and everything. Look, companies are still rolling out new things, though. We've seen a few new trainers and a few new things rolling out, and there's more to come soon. Again, 2020, unpredictable as ever. But as the trainer season starts in the Northern Hemisphere, things get even busier for me, which is great. Some live streams, some tech tips, and life as we know it, which is good. It's sort of normal for me during the period where nothing else is really normal, still being in stage 3 lockdown here in Victoria.
Yeah. Well, keep it up. The original and the best. Beware of cheap imitations. Nathan, you just seem to be commentating on race after race after race after race after race.
It's in full swing. I mean,
have you upped the output recently?
Yeah, we're up. I mean, we have up the output. We're up to, I believe it's going to be 6 minimum at this point, a week, and more than that on the way, I believe. So, there's a lot going on in the, the thing is like, the community is really strong in pockets, and it's kind of dispersed to doing a lot of its own things in these little pockets. And now all those pockets need to grow as we get into the winter months here. And so it'll be cool to try and serve all of those as best we can, and hopefully have those carrots that we were just talking about. As we saw that post from Steve, and I'm thinking that, okay, cool, something's coming down the line that we'll have something to chase that we can have on a steady rhythm for all of the, localized racing communities that are out on Zwift. So, I'm kind of just priming for that. And, Dave Toll has come on board as like a permanent, talent that's alongside me, which has been a lot of fun. And, we're also doing a lot of stuff with Australia. We got Kino on, Pat Shaw, we've got Carly Taylor, Vienna Korean. I mean, that's been a lot of fun to do those productions. It's the middle of the night for me, but I love chatting with the Aussies and helping to support their winter as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on in ZCL, tons nonstop for sure.
Excellent. Zwift Community Live. Tune in, folks. Always a good watch. Okay, that's it, boys. I think we got Nathan's tip for the top step of the podium in Paris at the beginning of the show. I think. But Shane, yours, please.
Rider 19, COVID-19 will win the tour. I suspect it will be all over before they hit Paris. That's my 2020 prediction. Failing that, look, I don't know. I'll leave it at that. We just don't know. Everything is just too crazy. Caleb Ewan, I hope, but he can't climb hills. He's very fast in the sprint instead. More stages for Caleb. That's what I'll go with. Hard to see
past Roglic, I think.
Yep. Good pick. They're always in yellow, though, aren't they? Jumbo Visma's always yellow. Yeah. They need to be a little different colour.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, I think you're on record.
The double Slovenian at the top right now is really interesting, though. And so my heart, Primoz, I think, is the favorite, but my heart goes out. Tadej, I think I would like to see him, and I'm gonna throw that out there. Let's see a young guy win it as well.
Yates.
I'm just gonna throw that out there. No, Tadej Pogacar.
Oh, Pogacar. Yeah.
Pogacar. I'm gonna throw Pogacar in for Primoz. I think is the favorite, but I want to say that Pogacar. Yates is at the top, but the second and third there currently, both same countrymen. And Pogacar, I think if he's hungry and he's got the talent, we'll see how he lasts throughout. And I think I like kind of shooting for a wild card more than like the favorite, so that's why I'm going that way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's difficult to see past Roglic. I really mangled that. You know what I mean. My wild card would be Bookman. Remember that name. He might just do something because he's, as has been evidenced by the baffled reaction of my two fellow Zwiftcasters.
Emmanuel
he's been completely invisible, but that can sometimes be a good place to be in week one of the tour. Okay, well, there we go. Lots of words dispensed in the usual cause over this episode. Hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you very much indeed for your valued contributions, my friends. Nice to talk to you again. And we'll say goodbye and see you next time. Thank you.
Great to be back. Let's do it again.
It wouldn't be the same without it, would it? Just the usual announcement. We are very grateful to continue to receive Zwift support to make the podcast, but they don't decide what goes in it. We do. Thanks for listening. See you next time.